Welcome, everybody. My name is Tyler, and I truly appreciate you being here with me, and I hope that God blesses you immensely. Today, I'm going to look at the relation of Enoch and the land of Jesus. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the land of Jesus or Terra de Isu, this heavily comes from a YouTube channel called Leaving Babylon, and that's her name is Madeline. And she's done extensive work on this. It's been incredibly edifying to see her research and the work she's put in. There's a lot of maps, and we'll go over that here in a second. There's a lot of maps. There's a lot of evidence of this land of Jesus, Terra de Isu. So if you're unfamiliar with that, again, that YouTube is Leaving Babylon. But I believe a lot of people who are here or subscribe to this channel are probably already familiar with that, as this is a very tight community as is. And so just that disclaimer there. But so we already know in Genesis chapter 5 that our Bibles talk about Enoch. And Enoch walked with God, and he was no more seen, for God took him away. So already we have some validity of Enoch and alluding to he's extremely important, right? Now, can we trust the Book of Enoch? Now, I know there's a lot of pushback on the extra canonical books and whatnot, but this is interesting stuff, and a lot of this comes from like Dr. Michael Heiser and other theologians, if you will, or scholars who do have emphasis and trust in the Book of Enoch. You know, obviously not as canon, but something that can be trustworthy in many ways. As we see here with the books of Jude and 2 Peter, both contain material that parallels or directly quotes from the book of 1 Enoch, an influential apocalyptic work written centuries before the New Testament. Jude's direct quotation is going to be in Jude, first chapter, 14 and 15, and it spawns off 1 Enoch 1:9. And we'll see here, Jude identifies the prophet and then quotes his prophecy of judgment. It was also about these that Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied, saying, Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment on all, and to convict the ungodly and all their deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way, and all the harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him. Very cool there, Enoch, the seventh from Adam. And we know how much the Bible loves the number 770 and 777. That's just another key there. This is the only direct named quotation of a book outside of the Old Testament found in the New Testament. Jude uses this authoritative prophecy known to his readers to condemn the false teachers of his day. Peter and Jude's allusion to fallen angels, both 2 Peter and Jude allude to the extended narrative of 1 Enoch regarding the sons of God, angels from Genesis 6, who have sinned and were subsequently punished by God. So we have more validity of the book of Enoch here in the New Testament. 2 Peter 2:4. Peter references the punishment of the angels using terminology that matches the Enochic tradition. In 2 Peter 2:4, he says, For if God not spare the angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell, Tartarus, and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the day of judgment. Again, there's a parallel there from the New Testament for the book of Enoch, for the first book of Enoch. And we're just running through these to gain validity, to not just immediately toss out the book of Enoch, because we have two writers here in the New Testament that will parallel or directly quote from it. Jude 1:6. I think we already did that up here. No, it's Jude 1:14. So also Jude 1:6. That's right. We're talking about the angels again, and the angels who did not stay within their position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. Jesus also is known to parallel from the book of Enoch. And we get a lot of the Son of Man. The book of Enoch uses the term Son of Man a lot. While this term appears in Daniel quite a bit, and it appears quite a bit in our Old Testament, I believe through Daniel and Isaiah and a couple others, I believe. But the book of Enoch specifically, the parables of Enoch significantly expanded the Son of Man as the divine pre-existent judge. When Jesus describes the Son of Man sitting on the throne of glory, Matthew 19:28, he is using imagery that mirrors 1 Enoch 62, 3-5. Marriage and angels, in Matthew 22:30, Jesus tells the Sadducees that in the resurrection, people neither marry nor given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. This closely resembles 1 Enoch 15, 6-7, where God explains the fallen angels that he did not appoint wives for them because they are spiritual and eternal. The Beatitudes, some scholars note that blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, from Matthew 5:5, has striking parallel to 1 Enoch 5:7. The elect shall possess light, joy, and peace, and they shall inherit the earth. The chasm in Hades, in the story of the rich man and Lazarus, Luke 16, Jesus mentions a great gulf fixed between the righteous and the wicked. 1 Enoch 22 describes the divisions of the underworld in very similar terms, including a chasm that separates souls. Okay, so we have some validity with the book of Enoch, right? It can't really be argued. I guess you could argue that, the book of Enoch was written after the New Testament. There is strong belief that it was not. It was written before, and that Peter, Jude, and Jesus are referencing the book of Enoch. So I do believe there is validity, but it's going to start getting good here in a second. Hold on. Okay, now one of my issues that I first off had with Enoch was the cosmology, when he starts talking about in First Enoch, the book, the 72 book of the luminaries, which parallels also Isaiah 40:22. Isaiah 40:22 is when he sits above the earth and the earth looks like a circle, right? Now, I know we have our understandings of Pangea and the mixture of truth and lies being thrown in there, saying, secular historians saying that Pangea is billions of years old, I know that there's some really good work, I know done by Jason Jack and a few others, talking about Pangea and how many times the Bible talks about how the islands broke away, the mountains fell, the earth separates. There's a lot. I also have my own little study on that I'll cover here soon, on the Pangea with Bible verses. But again, my first issue a long time ago with Enoch was that when he describes the new season, okay, when he says the sun enters the fourth gate, the days get longer and the signs of spring appear, that matches Enoch's description perfectly. But we know that it is the opposite in the southern hemisphere, right? So while the sun in that same gate, our days are actually getting shorter. So my original issue with Enoch was like, well, how is he describing the sun only in the northern hemisphere? And he's saying that that's like the way that the sun works. Well, I was like, maybe Pangea is true. Maybe he's describing the sun only in the northern hemisphere because that's where the majority or all of the land was, the circular landmass, before it broke apart. And then I was like, oh, okay, so we got Bible verses that talk about this. We've got Enoch talking about this. We've got Pangea being sort of a thing. And then, of course, we have Isaiah 40:22. He sits above the circle of the earth. It is God who sits above the circle of the earth. The people below must seem like grasshoppers. And he is the one who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and makes his tent from them. That's very related to biblical cosmology and flat stationary plane with the firmament above. And I used to think like the circle of the earth, when he's talking about the firmament, like, the ice wall, like Antarctica, however you want to. But in light of recent videos and stuff, like I said, from Jason Jack and some others, I can't think off the top of my head, but the land masses, when they're kind of grouped together, kind of represent a circle. And maybe Enoch was explaining cosmology from the circle of the earth, right? So I was like, okay, there's a little more validity. Okay, now this is where it's going to get crazy. It's going to be wild. Okay, it's going to be very interesting. Land of Jesus, portal to the heavens. Now, I noticed, and forgive me if this has already been covered, if Madeline has already talked about this, I'm not sure. I don't think so, but maybe. But this took me for my own little rabbit hole, and it really just connected a lot of crazy thoughts. But let's get into it. In chapter 70 of the book of Enoch, the narrative shifts from Enoch's earthly visions to his final permanent transition into the heavenly realm. This chapter is essentially an account of his ascent and relocation to a divine dwelling place. And here is word for word chapter 70. And it came to pass after this that his name during his lifetime was raised aloft to that Son of Man, and to the Lord of spirits, from amongst those who dwell on the earth. And he was raised aloft on the chariots of the Spirit, and his name vanished among them. And from that day I was no longer numbered amongst them. And he set me between the two winds, between the north and the west, where the angels took the cords, and to measure for me a place for the elect and the righteous, between the north and the west. And there I saw the first fathers and the righteous who from the beginning dwell in that place. Okay, so I was like, between the north and the west, right away I was like, is that Campus Saints? Is that Land of Jesus? Is that Terra de Isu? Because that is essentially in the north and the west. So I was like, okay, let me look into this a little deeper here. Okay. Key points: the final ascent. Enoch describes his name, representing his personhood and status, being raised aloft to the Son of Man and to the Lord of spirits. Unlike his previous temporary visions, this passage implies a permanent departure from humanity. His name vanished from among those who dwell on the earth, signifying that he was no longer numbered among the living. So the celestial location between the north and the west, in cosmology, Enoch, this isn't a compass heading. It is a specific spiritual geography. It's like, okay, well, if Terra de Isu is on our maps, Land of Jesus, that would definitely kind of notate that as a spiritual place, a spiritual geography. The two winds, Enoch is placed at a transitional point between the north and the west. The measuring cords, he observes angels using cords to measure a specific territory. In biblical and apocryphal literature, measuring symbolizes God's ownership and preparation of the sacred protected space, a protected space. The paradise of the elect. This northwest region is identified as a dwelling place for the elect and righteous. I was like, what? This sounds so Campus Saints, Terra de Isu, Land of Jesus. It really does. Okay, yeah, you're gonna call me crazy. I know I get some. There's gonna be some good comments on this one. The presence of the ancestors. Upon arriving, Enoch discovers that he is not alone. He sees the first fathers, the patriarchs, ancestors, and the righteous who have lived since the beginning of time. This reinforces the idea that the location is a heavenly paradise or a pre-judgment resting place for the holy. Okay, in Enoch's worldview, the north and the west is far more more than a simple direction on a compass. In the book of parables, the section of 1 Enoch containing chapter 70, this area represents a physical entrance into the spiritual realm. So it's pretty well understood that this is essentially a portal. All right, here's a breakdown of why this specific location is significant. The gateway to paradise. In ancient Hebrew cosmology, the ends of the earth were the contact points between the mortal and world and the divine. The west, traditionally associated with the setting of the sun and the entrance to the underworld or the unseen world. The Greek Elysium shares this Western orientation. The north, often considered the seat of God's power or the location of the mountain of the assembly, as seen in Isaiah 14:13. And we all know about the Northern Lights, representing streaming off God's throne, God's kingdom, or the holy city, right? The intersection, by placing Enoch between the north and the west, the text is situating him in a liminal space, a borderland that is neither fully earth nor fully highest heaven, but a secluded paradise where the elect wait. Man, again, I was like, is this the land of Jesus? Is that what Enoch's talking about? The measuring cords. The cords mentioned in verse 3 are a recurring motif in the Bible literature, in biblical literature, similar to the book of Zechariah or Revelation. Purpose. Measuring signifies selection and protection, meaning the angels are not just checking dimensions, they are staking out a territory that is holy and set apart from the corruption of the rest of the world. It marks the area as safe from heaven, as a safe haven for the elect, the righteous, before the final judgment. Again, I was like, just my spidey senses were tingling. I was like, land of Jesus, land of Jesus. This is wild. We've got it on maps. We've got the discoveries. We've got lots of that going on. And now, forgive me, this is new to me, but like now, do we have some literature that's literally speaking of it here? The first fathers, the presence of the first fathers, Adam, Seth, Enoch's ancestors, in this specific northwest quadrant confirms that this is the garden of righteousness. In Enochic tradition, the righteous dead do not just cease to exist, they are relocated to this specific geographical spiritual garden to await the day of the elect one, the Messiah. Okay, so I went to, and forgive me, I use AI and I use Google. I use searches to search things out, but I always confirm them on paper. That's also why I love collecting books and collecting various different Bibles and whatnot, because I don't trust AI. So let me just completely 100%, it ain't trustworthy. I've caught it messing up so many times. So please don't get me wrong here. I do not trust AI, but I do use it sometimes as a jumping off point to start research and then confirm it, right? And it can be combative sometimes too. Like when you start stumbling real hard or you start stumbling upon some truth, it'll start messing with you. So you got to be careful. Okay, so here's my question. I put it in. I just said, well, let me go ask, okay? Geographically, this is my question to AI. Geographically, would between the north and the west be the northern Pacific Ocean, possibly between Alaska and Russia, Terra de Isu, land of Jesus, Camp of Saints? Here is the answer. While modern geography makes it tempting to look at the globe and point to the Bering Sea and the North Pacific, the space between Russia and Alaska, looking at the Book of Enoch through a 21st century map can be a bit like using GPS to find Narnia. I was like, oh, Narnia. Yeah, those movies that like totally have innuendos. It's like, sweet. To the ancient authors, between the north and the west wasn't a physical coordinate on a sphere. It was a specific location on a flat celestial map. This is literally what AI said. It wasn't a physical location on a sphere, but it was a location on a flat celestial map. I was like, yeah. Here is how the Northwest area translates from ancient cosmology to your modern suggestion. Okay. The literal versus spiritual geography. In ancient Hebrew cosmology, the earth was often viewed as a circular disk covered by a dome, the firmament, Isaiah 40:22. Yes, we know. And we're pretty dang sure it's the same way today. It is God who sits above the circle of the earth. The people below must look like grasshoppers to him. He is the one who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and makes his tent from them. The earth is God's footstool. This is a dome. This is a firmament. This is the heavens. Okay, the northwest corner was considered the hidden or liminal quarter in the Book of Enoch. The north is where the storehouses of snow and hail are kept, and in the west there is where the sun sets into the great portals. The intersection northwest was the entrance to the garden of righteousness. Could it be in the Pacific or near the Bering Strait? If you were to overlay Enoch's vision onto a modern globe, your intuition about northern Pacific Arctic Ocean is actually quite insightful for a few reasons. The land of darkness. Ancient writers often associate the northwest as a place of long shadows and mystery. descriptions that fit the subarctic and Arctic regions like Alaska and Siberia, where the sun behaves differently. Why the Northwest specifically? In chapter 70, Enoch says he was set between the two winds. The astronomical book section of Enoch, chapters 72 through 82, he explains that the north wind brings cold and health. The west wind is associated with the setting of the sun and the afterlife. Excuse me. The middle ground, by placing the elect and righteous in the northwest, the text suggests a place that is cool and peaceful, protected from the burning sun of the south and the east, but also removed from the living, hidden in the sunset of the west. Okay, so that's a lot to digest, and it seems it seems like there's similarities going on here, right, between what Enoch describes and the land of Jesus. So, and I just started thinking like portals, like there is a land. They've hid it from us. They're hiding it from us till this day. Again, look at Madeline's research. It's on the old maps, which we'll show here in a second. But maybe it is a land, but also there is a portal to the heavens. Interesting tidbits. The Northwest Passage was known as the Holy Grail of exploration. Okay, this is just, but what I wanted to say there is, I just wanted to add in, there is, I don't know if you guys ever heard like simulation theory. I know there's some people out there that tend to believe that like everything that we're doing and that we're living out is a simulation, right? It's almost likened to like a computer program where God is the programmer and we are just living in his program. Now, this is crazy, but I've heard some people believe that like the international date line, the line that goes through the land of Jesus, through the Bering Strait, and how there is like a 3.5 hour time difference, which over an area that's supposed to just be like very, very short. It's supposed to be a very short area, but yet our time difference is like 3.5 hours, which is like, if you're flying, that's like that's huge, right? That's like half the United States, if not more. So in their simulation theory, some of these people actually believe, and it's been explained to me on my Telegram channel from these people, from some of them, that on their map, and some of them use like a stereographic map, that like planes or physical things, when they go through that international date line, they just disappear and show up on the other side of the earth. So it's like it just wraps, like the same way you quote unquote say that you're going around the globe, but their theory was like you just disappear, like it's a portal. So I was like, wow, it's another odd thing. If we got a portal out there, and these folks were kind of onto it, kind of a little bit alluding to, maybe they were getting kind of close to somewhat of a truth there, but I just thought that was wild because it's the same place. We're having all these anomalies. We're having these portals. We're having the land of Jesus. We're having the maps that show it. We're having the government hide it from us. This all is crazy. It's wild. Okay, now interesting tidbits about this whole area. Okay, the Northwest Passage was known as the Holy Grail of exploration. Why was it called the Holy Grail? The nickname fits because the passage shared many qualities with the actual Arthurian myth. I forgot to look into that part. I was going to add some more, but you guys can help me in the comments. I love that you guys do. There's so much good stuff. Please add what you know in the comments and what I should research more. The Impossible Prize. For centuries, people weren't even sure if it actually existed as a navigable route. It was a fabled shortcut that promised to revolutionize global trade by linking Europe to the riches of Asia. Okay, the obsessive quest. Just as knights spent their lives hunting for the Grail, generations of British, French, and Spanish explorers became obsessed with the passage. Figures like Henry Hudson and Sir John Franklin sacrificed everything to find it. Maybe they knew a little more than what's told. Maybe they were trying to find the actual land of Jesus, Camp of Saints, right? The Arctic Grail. The term was popularized in modern literature by the famous historian Pierre Berton, who titled his definitive book on the subject The Arctic Grail. He argued that by the 1800s, the quest was no longer just about trade. It became a matter of national pride and spiritual testing. Other historical names, before it was officially known as the Northwest Passage, it went by several other evocative names. Sorry. Excuse me. I have a little cold, guys. I'm sorry, but I keep on pause a little bit. My apologies. The Strait of Anian. This was the name used by 16th century Spanish cartographers. They believed a semi-mythical strait separated Asia from North America, and the Strait of Anian is it's what's on a lot of the old maps that show Land of Jesus, Terra de Isu. There's on there the Mercator projection of the North Pole, the one from I believe the 1500s. It's very famous. So you've seen it a lot. You'll see the Strait of Anian on there, which is really interesting because if that's showing a North Pole and that's showing dry lands there and all sorts of really crazy mythical stuff is on that map, but yet the Mercator projection is still the general like flat map of the world is still what's like generally used in classrooms and even by like flight simulators and stuff, I believe. So it's pretty wild. The Mercator is it's a big name. The theory of the open polar sea is one of the most fascinating examples of wishful thinking in scientific history. Sure, it is. For much of the 19th century, many of the world's leading geographers and explorers were convinced that if you could just break through the barrier of the ice surrounding the Arctic, you would find a warm, ice-free ocean at the North Pole. Again, just like the North Pole Mercator projection. And like all those maps, the Urbano Monte from the 1500s, the Mercator projection, they're all showing that there's land in the North Pole and that it's not ice, that it's not covered in snow. There's a ton of maps that are showing that it's not covered in snow. Not until like the 17 and 1800s that we started seeing all this snow. And the same goes for the Antarctic. Same goes for the ring around the Earth, the quote unquote ice wall, if you want to call it. It was land. On these hundreds of years ago on these maps, it was land. It wasn't ice. They didn't show ice. Okay, now it's just covered in snow and you can't go there. And we've got all these government treaties or everyone's shaking each other's hands from every country in the world going like, yeah, don't go here. It's super dangerous and we got to protect the natural resources of all that ice. Right. Garden of Eden. In 1885, William Warren, the first president of Boston University, even published a book called Paradise Found, arguing that the North Pole was the original site of the Garden of Eden and the cradle of the human race. It's the president of Boston University. Not just some guy off the street. If this is true, this is someone who's pretty well educated. Okay, Warren's central thesis was that the North Pole was at the site of Garden of Eden, Hyperborea, which we see Hyperborea on a lot of old maps as well, and it's always in the high north, always near the North Pole, always near the land of Jesus. He argued that the ancient maps and legends, including the Strait of Anian, the mythical precursor to the Bering Strait, were not just explorers' guesses, but fossilized memories. And I underlined that. Fossilized memories. Like they remembered from the millennial reign where the Camp of Saints, where the land of Jesus was. They knew it in their DNA. They just knew it. They knew it. Of a time of where the continents were connected or separated differently around a central polar homeland. And we'll see here in a second when I show you the map why that makes a little bit of sense. In Paradise Found, the Strait of Anian isn't a shipping lane, it's a mythological boundary. To Warren, it was the exit point through which the children of Adam left the Arctic paradise to populate the rest of the world. Oh man, maybe this president of Boston University was reading Enoch and thinking the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. Unbelievable. The Mountain of God, Ezekiel 28, talks about the Eden and the Garden of God, the Holy Mountain of God. that he walked up and down the stones of fire. This is just another connection with Ezekiel to Enoch. So we have more connections, more validity here, and this is all found before the Book of Luminaries. This is in chapter 70 of Enoch, first Enoch. Okay, so that's some wild stuff. Just something else I wanted to show. Okay, so this is the map I have on the wall. This is from 1696. And there you go. Terra de Isu, de Isu, which translates to land of Jesus and sea of Jesus. And if you look at maps today, even if you look at Google Earth, you'll see this line, this like shelf line underneath water, right? And so here they're saying it's land. In other maps, it'll just say that it's incognito, that's hidden land. There's a ton of this stuff. Again, check out Madeline Leaving Babylon. You guys are all familiar. But obviously something's going on here where they used to document this stuff. They used to document things like the California, what used to be an island. And that's also on the Mercator North Pole projection, that California is way up north near Alaska and almost touching land of Jesus there. So to say like these cartographers worked extremely, extremely hard, and they were very, very intelligent. To say that they just got all this wrong versus just following our Bible and looking at all the verses talking about how the land keeps separating, weigh the fruit, weigh the difference. Like what's actually true, the words of God or man, and cross-reference the two. And you'll find in between, we're going to get some truth. We're going to get some revelation, especially from the Holy Spirit. There's that. So pretty wild stuff. Does the Book of Enoch reference the land of Jesus? I don't know. I'm inclined to say yes, it does. Again, I know we're gonna get some wild comments, but I thought it was very wild. I thought it was at least worth presenting and getting out there and talking about. The other thing too is when I started looking into this, or when I saw an Enoch, it made me think of these, and you see these a lot in the old cathedrals. You'll see these like beam me up Scotty type Star Trek type portal looking things. And I noticed these a long, long time ago, way before this stuff I'm talking about with Enoch and stuff. And a long time ago, it was a couple years ago. I don't think I was even a little seasoner back then. I was looking at these. I was like, are these like those look like portals or something? So are they trying to tell us something? And then you got like the angel with trumpets above. Yeah, I don't. There's just wild speculation. Not dogmatic about it. I was just like, we're talking about portals. We're talking about an area that's incognito, that's hidden, that used to be called Land of Jesus. We got Enoch talking about how that's how he got taken up into the heavenly realms. It's close to the Garden of Eden, possibly. We got these writers and cartographers. It's fossilized in their memory. Wow. Like there's a lot to it, right? There's just a ton to it. Something else I wanted to just show real quick was just wild. And I just caught this recently on a podcast with John Kerwin, Wake Up or Else. That's his YouTube channel. He has he talks a lot about Mandela effect and the Bible and stuff. He's very, very knowledgeable. I'm just recently catching up to his videos. I hope maybe even we could have him on. Maybe me and Damon from A Seat from Jesus could interview him. He seems like just a lot of fun and just full of the Holy Spirit and a lot of knowledge. So John, if you're watching this, hello, brother. You responded to a comment recently on your channel, which I really appreciate, man. But recently I heard John talking to the Biocharisma podcast. They recently did something together, which was a really cool talk. But he talked about Enoch, chapter 80, verse 3 here. And in those times, the fruits of the earth shall be backward and shall not grow in their time. And he brought that up. He said that bananas are growing upwards right now. And I was like, what? I was like, what? And then immediately I found, oh, what? I already found arguments of people saying that they've always grown upwards. Like, I don't know about that, man. I used to see like Curious George cartoons and stuff. They're growing downwards. I think in the movie Congo, they're growing downward. Like, wild stuff, guys. Wild stuff. Some people have asked me, like, with all this like research and whatnot and stuff, and the world is like crumbling around us, and the dollar's crashing, and we should be thinking about going off grid, and oh man, the vaccines and the smart cities and the evil. Like, how can you stay so in good spirits, man? Because we know what's next. We know what comes next. It's a glorious thing. Like, I know it's scary to think about, like, oh, it's the end of the world. But yeah, what's next is freaking awesome. So, and I don't know about you, but I'm getting sick of this world already, and I have been for a while, and don't feel like I'm of this world anyways. I felt like that my whole life, even before I got saved by Christ. I'm just like, this ain't where I want to be, man. Like, so. I stay pumped, and I love doing this. I love sharing this info. I love looking into it. It helps me to keep my head out of the propaganda that is just constantly like shoved in our faces by the enemy, by the adversaries. So, and of course, like you go outside and you look up and you see a fresh chemtrail, and you get livid. But I've realized recently that just makes me want to seek Christ even more. So I'm like, they're just spraying it right in our face, and I'm just like, I need to pray. I want to, and it was almost like God saying, like, yeah, seek me harder, find your peace in this evil time. And just like a friend of mine recently, Lyndon, brother, I love you. He's got a paper, and one of the quotes in there, he says, "We need to see the good when no good can be seen," which is beautiful. We need to see the good when no good can be seen. We're talking about faith. Talking about that faith in our Lord and Savior. So, all right, guys. I hope this finds you well. As always, I hope God blesses you immensely. And we will see you on the next one. Much love.